Well, Brian, isn't this a treat? I get you now twice in a row. How are you, man?
Good. I'm happy to do a follow-up. I think we left a lot of things left to discuss.
For sure. So, if you have not listened to the first episode on this, please check it out. But let me try and summarize. Everyone and their mom knows that the contact center agent job, quite frankly, just sucks. And it's a job that people are hating more and more and more. And no one is happy with this job. Everyone sort of acknowledges that. What I think people will find interesting, and please go listen to that episode, is that you make the case that the real reason people and particular contacts and agents don't love their job is not because they don't have enough pizza parties or just the pay. It's that the job itself is
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah.
We then spent some time, which is where I want to pick up this conversation today, talking about what people usually do. There's been billions and billions and billions of dollars spent on this problem we are talking about today. There's
Sure
been
has.
career initiatives, there's been pay initiatives, there's been incentives. I personally am having flashbacks to my time running large contact centers, arguing about um the cost per activity per employee, because you had this activity kitty
Oh yeah.
of that, and I thought, my gosh, you can't touch that sacred thing because this is a part of what will keep people on. And I learned in our last conversation that no, that's not where the juice is. That is not where the action is.
Yeah.
So maybe a place to start is, why have we spent so much time looking everywhere else but the thin?
Yeah. Good question. Good question. Um and I think the best framework, I mentioned it a little bit last time, but let's dive a little bit deeper into this, this idea of meaningful work. But
Yeah.
there's really three types of meaning from work. And once you understand all three, you start to understand where you want to focus and why these other areas don't have a whole lot of impact. So the first one is meaning at work, or no, sorry, meaning from work.
Okay.
So, in a sense, when you're not at work, does your work have, provide some meaning and benefit to your life? Well, we typically call this kind of compensation, this category. So when I'm not at work, what's great is I have pay that allows me to do things in my life and take care of people. And, I have benefits. There's,
Hmm.
as you mentioned, incentives and things like that. But what's interesting is, you have to have that. I mean,
Right.
try running a center without paying people. But once you kind of hit that market level, going above that, there really is little to no ROI in
Hmm.
employee retention,
Hmm.
in engagement of that employee to do
Hmm.
their job, and really performance. Because even after, there's all these studies that just show money is not why people are at the job after a while. It's why they take the job. It's not why they stay in the job. So that's number one category. Then the number two category is meaning at work.
Hmm.
And this area we like to call the company. It's a great place to work. There's, everybody, hey, we're a great place to work and we're certified and all those things. I have a friend at work, there's like the Gallup 12, focuses on a lot of aspects of the meaning at work. I like the company I work for. I like the people, like my coworkers. We have pizza parties, social events. We even might have a really good, corporate social responsibility and volunteering, um, along with, hey, we have this company mission that everybody should be happy and on board with. So what do you think? How big of an impact do those things have?
It's significant, I would think.
Sad to say, when it comes to turnover, it has a little bit more than compensation, but when it comes to retention, when it comes to actual engagement in the job and performance in the job, it really doesn't have a whole lot. One of my,
Interesting.
friends always says, they'd be on a call, yjacking with an agent, listening to them, and the agent would be like, can't wait to get off this call because there's going to be a birthday party and we get cake and some food and stuff. And so it's like, wait, if the reason why you're there is not to do the job but to do these other activities, that might be an indication of where there's some challenges.
So, if that's not it, and before you even go further, I'm just wondering if you have a theory. Back to my question. Why do we, myself included, reflexively go focus on these other things? Do you have a theory as to why it's quick, it's money? Yeah, we're not. What's your
There,
market rate?
you're that's where I would say where you're going. It's easier,
Hmm.
it's quicker, and I can just throw some dollars at it. And what's interesting is, as we call the third category, which is meaningful work, this is the job. So my job.
Okay.
How I feel about my job is what drives overwhelmingly. It is the big, it's the big lever that moves everything on, reducing turnover, increasing engagement, and increasing performance. Now, what's interesting about that is that comes down to who is responsible for the employee's job.
Huh. Okay. Well. Okay. All right. So it sounds like I think a lot of people will not like where this is going, but I think we should have this conversation. I think you're saying, I want to put words in your mouth, sir.
No worries, no
That's
worries.
the most critical element of solving this conundrum comes down to what is the job itself? Like what is the job? How is the job performed? All the things about the things I actually spend my eight-ish hours doing at work.
Yep.
And then you being the great prosecutor you are, I didn't know that you are. You go, well, who is responsible for creating this deal? And the answer, it's not a rhetorical question. It's management, whoever
Yes.
the heck management is, right?
You exactly. And so who's responsible and how easy is it, for management to say, "Hey, someone else do the pizza party, HR do the benefits and the pay and hey, we'll have these fun activities. That's somebody else." And so ultimately it's like management, "Hey, I got a job to do. And we got numbers to hit. And we got a staff, we got a, it's this is a complex, and that's the thing is, if you're not from the industry, oh my gosh, to understand the complexity and the challenge of making, a successful contact center, it, it's one of the hardest things to do from a, if you're a high diver, the difficulty level is really, really high.
For sure.
So there's all of this stress, there's all of these challenges. And it's like, hey, if we get through everything, then we'll take a look at seeing what we can do to, help the employee. and make their job better. And as I bring this down to this idea of meaningful work, what's important is to just give a little bit more background about kind of what it is and what it isn't, because a lot of people think there's this movement of, hey, happiness at work. We want to be happy. It's going to be fun. Not meaningful work. It typically, now there's satisfaction from meaningful work, but happy, what's interesting was one of our favorite researchers in meaningful work is Catherine Bailey. And she did a study and these interviews and found out one of the areas that had extremely high meaningful work were intensive care nurses.
Interesting.
So, and one of the quotes in the article, I even put a link in my report. I put a link to her article. And I believe the quote is from the nurse, "I can't think of anything more meaningful than helping people die."
Helping people
Die.
Wow.
Yeah. So, how fun is that?
No,
How,
that is not.
gee, it's all happy. No, but it's meaningful. And what's also interesting is where we really hit on this and discovered it was we asked, for decades, really, agents in focus groups, what is the best part of your job? And they say, overwhelmingly, it's one, top response that goes, to the top. And that is, it is when I go above and beyond for a customer and make their day. So it's also not easy. They put effort, they go above and beyond. And it's meaningful to them because they're the ones making the difference for the customer. It's not a process. So they're truly helping another human being. So those are the areas of meaningful work, is when my work makes a difference in someone else's life. So, yeah, I'd love to hear some, because I see you react, and I want to hear what you're saying.
What I'm struggling with is we started the conversation from our last discussion, and please, if you're listening, you haven't listened to that, go have that conversation. It lays out how we got here. We talked about how we've industrialized customer service in the contact center.
Yep.
And so there is not a problem to be solved that is not solved through that lens.
Yes.
A lens of, let me put a number to the thing and the beatings won't stop until everyone, right? Like
Yes.
That is kind of the formula. And I would argue that most management teams came to the same conclusion you had and said, our agents want to help the customer. This is the best part of their day. And what they decided to do was increase the credit limit from $50 to $100 per customer.
Yep.
And
it's
then
a thing. It's a spreadsheet. It's a process.
Loosened the QA requirements so that it wasn't so rigid. It's like you could say a different word.
Oh, no, average handle time. We're not going to beat you over the head with as much.
So, right. So I guess I'm making the argument to you. I would love your reaction that says that I think everyone knows this intuitively and actually wants it.
Yeah.
But only tool I've got in my tool belt, at least, maybe it's a failure of imagination on my part as a manager, as I'm playing the manager here, is, okay, great. You want to help customers more. You want to feel more. Well, let me bring that into this. Let me have finance run an analysis on that assumes the worst, that if everyone issues credit all willy-nilly, how long will it take for us to be broke? They've come back and they've said $100 per agent. That is your credit limit. Use that to, really go above and beyond to the customer. And it's still not working. So what gives?
Yes. Oh man, I'm glad you kind of brought that up, and I'll eventually hit that in a pretty heavy way. But you know, I guess start with the positive, and then we'll go where it goes off
Right.
the rails. The positive is, wait, if my agents truly what drives them to get up in the morning, stay at this job, and be satisfied and be a high performer is their ability to help the customer, and they'll go above and beyond to do that. And it's like, well, that's good for them, but that's also good for the customer.
Right.
And interestingly enough, they have an emotional impact on the customer, which is important, which AI can't do, and other things. But also, it's great for the company. You have loyal employees and loyal customers, and that drives your profitability. All
Yeah.
good. So it's like, why? Why aren't we doing this? And the number one thing is this thing that we discovered, in a sense. I mean, it's always been there, but until we discovered it, put a name on it, and were able to measure it, um, what we looked at wasn't going to work at how do you change things. And this is this area called grind. And I explained a little bit, last time, when we had, you know, an an agent interaction with a customer, there's also a company. And when the company and the customer aren't in alignment, the agent gets caught in the middle. We say,
Right.
what a grind that is. That's how we came up with the term. What a grind, because you can't please both and you have to choose one or the other. And they choose the company and they disengage. And the number one cause of grind, and this is also in meaningful work research, it's interesting as we reread things, we found it in there, especially from Catherine Bailey's work, is this idea of management is the number one cause of what we call grind, but as she calls destroyer of meaningful
Mm.
work. And interesting, it's not the frontline manager themselves as a person, because we saw studies. Hey, I really like my boss, my supervisor. I like him as a person. Hate the way I'm managed. And we know that's a systematic thing that rolls all the way down. And as we said, a lot of these supervisors were the agent, and now they have to go to the dark side, and they're telling everybody and managing people how
Mm.
they hate it to be managed.
Right.
So when you look at it, and it's back to that manufacturing mentality of, okay, you know what? We're going to manufacture interactions, and we're going to set up the processes, the technologies, the scripts, everything else, what you can and can't say, the QA things. And unfortunately, people who focus on that, and it's really the industry has,
Yeah.
it's like, the human is the problem. The human is
Ding,
the
ding, ding.
variable.
Ding, 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 ding. Like this is
So when you have the
almost,
mindset that the
yeah.
human is the problem, you are going to do things more and more to try and control that human,
We,
and not to be great. You're going to control them not to make a mistake.
ah, look, that is so money. If you have this worldview, and by the way, this is an assembly line worldview. Humans are prone to error. They are prone to emotionality. They're prone to all of those things. And whether it's Six Sigma, whether it's any of that, is about reducing error rate. It starts with the worldview that left to our own devices, this thing is messy. And an assembly line does not like messy. It likes
Yep.
order. It likes that. And to your point about the humans a problem, like the best applause lines I get lately when I talk about AI, you know what it is, or at least agreement, a violent agreement, is when I go, it does not need a break. It does not take time off.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't have a bad day. There's all. And And what we're saying is you've missed the whole point about humans coming to you, yes, to solve a problem, right?
Yeah.
But also to interact with you. And if you go down this road and all you are is a machine, I use that figuratively and
Yep.
literally,
Yeah.
there will be no emotional connection. So your most
Ah,
valuable part of this whole thing, you got to figure out is and to do that, you cannot scrub the humanity out of humans. So I think you've gotten to the thing where I now get it now. The agent is saying, I want this thing.
yes.
Management is like, yes, I agree. But it needs to be done in the most sterile, error
Dehumanizing
reducing,
way.
dehumanizing way. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
And you hit on the big thing.
Yeah.
So and we touched upon this a little bit last time, but I'll dive in a little bit more. Profitability of companies who have customers, which is most of them, depends on human behavior of customers,
Right.
which they're more emotional than rational. And when you then look at this, what drives the emotional attachment, emotional satisfaction, and this emotional loyalty that really does impact the behavior to buy and stay and refer? Other humans, when they interact with other humans. So when you look at this, there's the mindset we just said, hey, the human's the problem, the variable that we have the problem with that makes the mistakes. But if you can shift your mindset to say, oh my gosh, actually, the human is the path to customer loyalty. And if we can unleash them to be more human, everybody wins.
So listen, we've got to do we're going to do another episode, if you would be so kind, to talk about the how. But I cannot let you go without you articulating this what. This sounds like anarchy. And maybe you're an anarchist. I'm getting to know you even better as we spent more time together. But I want you to articulate here for me. Let's put the how aside. We'll get
Yeah.
to that.
Okay.
Let's just say folks are listening to this and saying, hallelujah, I want that thing. Amen. And there's some leaders who are like, yes. What what is this contact center place like? Is this just people running around, showing up whenever they want, telling customers whatever they please, issuing credit to anyone and everyone who as much as breathes wrong? What
No.
does this Brian contact center of the future looks like? My brain that has been conditioned of this industrial age of customer service
Yeah.
can't even I can't get there. Lay it out for me. What does that contact center look like on the other side of this?
So it's interesting because that's why we say experiment, because people have a hard time grasping it until they see
Right.
it. And I'll tell you the number one difference by far. It is a change in mindset, which we talked
Hmm.
about. And it's the change in mindset, not of the customer, not of the agent. You actually don't have to do very much, quite honestly, work with either of them. The key is mindset of leadership and management.
Interesting.
And what we say is the shift is if you can shift, and this is, we'll talk about the how later, but if you can shift to, hey, we're an organization that provides a service.
Mm.
So we do this, that, and here, and we can measure it, and here's the service, and we solved the problem, check the box, all that. If you can shift from that to we serve a person.
Hmm.
So not only is it we serve the employee as a person, they're unique, they're individual. And when we do it, guess who has meaningful work? Management. Then, when the employee has this ability and the focus and the organizations behind him of, hey, truly take care of the customer, and they're going to come back to you. We actually one time got rid of QA thinking it's worthless. Guess who demanded it back? The agents. Because they wanted to get better. They wanted feedback. It's like, and it's also the only time I get to talk to maybe my supervisor. But it's like, no, they are driven because it's really stressful to fail at that job. So they want to get better. So it's like, wow, this simple alignment is the 80-20 rule. Because if you can focus on the human and people now see their eyes open, and the biggest thing we get in our training, no doubt, number one comment, damn it, I can't unsee grind. You've ruined this for me. I can't go back to the old way. Now I understand what's going wrong, but then there's the how do you make it better that we can talk about at a different time.
Oh man, I I feel like you've been to the other side. Like you've got to the you've got uh,
Yes.
uh, uh to the other side. Like you're Moses. You stood on the mountaintop and you're seeing it. Um, Let me then ask you this: from how big of a shift is it? So I get it's actually comforting when you said it made sense. The the agents, you just free them and they just do the thing they're naturally wired to do anyway. So and you just unleash them and they're fine. The customers are like, "Oh my gosh, I love this."
Yeah. They still
And
have guardrails. But
yes,
it's how you manage them and they understand why this and that. And so, but what you're doing is you're getting them to be self-learning and self-managing. And then it's like, wow, then they're amazing. And that's great for everybody.
is this even possible without some senior level sponsorship?
So it is possible, but that senior level leadership over time can destroy it.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, because I think it's such a shift. But we're running out of time. Before I let you go though, Brian, I want to ask you, we're getting to know you more here. I want to ask you, what is a what is a uh purchase under $50 that you would say impacted your life in a positive or negative way? And while you think about your answer, mine is the neti pot.
Okay.
Don't know if you know what that is. Clearly,
I
you don't
don't.
suffer from allergies as I do. So it is. You suffer from allergies. You take all the Allegra. That when things get really bad, you buy this pot. Then you put water, tap water, and saline solution in it. You pour it in one nostril, it goes in, and it comes out the other thing. Now, the lady on the box is doing this in the most elegant way. When I do it, I'm basically waterboarding myself, and it's just it's just a mess. But on the other side of this $20 neti pot, your allergies, you get almost instant relief. So that would be mine. What would be your under $50 purchase?
All right. So just as a product,
Product, a thin book, anything you spend under $50 that you're like
you're gonna
impacts my
think
life.
I'm crazy, but it is this. It's like a chemical called bifin, and it's funny because we had problems with you know insects, spiders, all of that stuff. And when a black widow was running through my garage and my wife was taking a 2x4 trying to kill it, it's like, okay, I'm gonna call an exterminator. And they did, the stuff that they used was great, but they weren't very reliable and they were really expensive. So I found out what they were using, and I realized you can get it from Amazon for like $25, and you get your own sprayer and your own goggles and glasses. People think I look like Ghostbusters, but my gosh, like that thing can last for years, that one bottle. And it's like, then the calmness, we don't have problems with the insects and
Wow.
whatever. So
Wow. I am going to order one as soon as we get off this thing, because I have paid thousands of dollars. I get them, they come in, I don't know what they actually do. I buy the thing. So I am all over, and we live around water, so it's a nightmare. So I'm going to buy Bifin. Wow. I was worried there that I had a guest recommend raw milk to my audience. So I was Nate Brown recommended raw milk.
Nate did. Okay.
Yes, raw milk
That's
to my
funny.
audience. We had to start putting disclaimers that the opinions of our guests are. Hey, Brian, this was fantastic. For those of you listening, the next conversation is what you've been waiting for, which is the how. How do you get to this place of meaningful work and eliminate grind, as Brian has been gracious enough to describe to us? Thanks for coming on, and we will have you on soon. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Good stuff.
You've been listening to an Amos Talks production.